I pushed the door without thinking and the alien girl froze, doing something private. The human, Daniel Reeve, had been walking for almost an hour through the quiet research wing of the station. The place was clean, bright, and strangely calm. Soft lights ran along the walls, changing color slowly in ways that meant something to someone who was not human. To Daniel, it all looked the same after a while. He had a tablet in his hand and a question in his mind. He was late for a systems check, and the map on the screen kept shifting as the station adjusted corridors for different species. One moment the door ahead was marked as a public lab. The next moment the text flickered. Daniel sighed, reached out, and pushed the door. The room beyond was not a lab. It was small and warm, lit by a dim blue glow that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Strange symbols moved slowly in the air like floating ink. At the center of the room stood an alien girl. She froze the instant the door opened. She was tall and slender, with smooth silver skin and dark eyes that reflected the glowing symbols around her. Thin lines of light ran across her arms and neck, pulsing gently. Her hands were raised, fingers spread, as if she had been shaping the air itself. Whatever she had been doing stopped in that exact moment, like time had decided to pause just for her. Daniel stopped too. "Oh," he said, the words slipping out before his brain caught up. "I'm sorry." The alien did not move, not a blink, not a breath that Daniel could see. Her eyes were wide, fixed on him. The symbols in the air trembled, then slowed, as if unsure whether to continue. Daniel took a step back. "I didn't mean to. This door wasn't marked. I'll just—" A sharp tone echoed through the room, low and humming. The lights dimmed further. The symbols snapped into place and locked, hovering like frozen thoughts. Daniel felt a strange pressure in his head, not pain, just awareness, like standing too close to a speaker playing a sound he could not hear. "I'm leaving," he said quickly, holding up his hands. "I swear." "I didn't see anything. I mean, I saw, but I didn't understand," and the alien girl finally moved. Her hands lowered slowly. The lines of light on her skin flickered, then steadied. She looked down at herself, then back at Daniel. Her expression was not anger. It was something closer to shock mixed with deep confusion. "You opened the door," she said. Her voice was calm, but it echoed slightly, as if more than one voice spoke at the same time. "Yes," Daniel said. "I'm really sorry. You did not announce yourself." "I didn't know I had to. The sign changed." She looked toward the door, then back at him. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in threat, but in thought. "This space was sealed," she said. "It was marked private." Daniel swallowed. "It wasn't on my map. I wouldn't have come in if I knew." The alien studied him for a long moment. The pressure in Daniel's head grew, then faded. The symbols in the air began to shift again, but differently now. They no longer moved in smooth patterns. They twisted, reacting to something new. "You are human," she said. "Yes, you were not meant to see this." "I know. I'll go right now," she hesitated. "If you leave now, the process will not return to its original state." Daniel paused. "I don't understand." "What I was doing," she said slowly, choosing her words, "cannot be undone once observed." Daniel felt a cold drop in his stomach. "Observed how? I didn't record anything. I didn't touch anything." "You existed here," she replied. "That is enough." He looked around the room again. "Is it dangerous?" "No," she said. "Not dangerous. Changed." The word hung in the air. Alarms began to sound somewhere far down the corridor, soft at first, then louder. The door behind Daniel slid halfway closed, then stopped, as if unsure what to do. The alien girl's shoulders tightened. "They will come," she said. "They will ask why a human entered a private cognitive space." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "I can explain. I'll tell them it was my fault. They will not believe it was an accident," she said. "Your species does not have the same boundaries." Daniel frowned. "We have boundaries." "You do," she agreed, "but you test them without meaning to." The symbols in the air suddenly flared bright white. Daniel gasped as images flashed through his mind. Not pictures exactly, but feelings, curiosity, urgency, improvised decisions made in moments without full information. He staggered back, grabbing the edge of a table. "Sorry," she said quickly. "That was not intentional." "What was that?" he asked, breathing hard. "You are loud," she said, almost with wonder, "even when you are quiet." The door slid open again as two figures appeared outside. Tall, armored in smooth, dark suits, their faces hidden behind shifting visors, station officials. The alien girl turned toward them. "Stop!" The guards hesitated. The air between them shimmered. "This interruption has already altered the work," she said. Further intrusion will increase instability, one of the guards spoke. A human has violated a protected space. Yes, she replied, without intent. That is unlikely. Daniel stepped forward before he could stop himself. It was my mistake. The map changed. I didn't know. The guards turned toward him. Daniel felt that pressure again, stronger now, like many minds brushing against his own. The alien girl raised one hand. I will take responsibility. The guards paused. You request containment instead of removal. I request observation, she said. Of the result. The room fell silent. Even the alarm seemed distant now. What result? One guard asked. She looked at the symbols in the air. They were no longer smooth or ordered. They branched, connected in strange new ways, forming structures she had never seen before. The human presence introduced variables, she said, unexpected ones. The guards exchanged a silent signal. Very well, one said. This will be reported. They stepped back. The door sealed fully this time. Daniel let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. I'm really sorry, he said again. I didn't mean to cause trouble. She looked at him, truly looked at him now, not as a mistake, but as a factor. You did not cause trouble, she said. You caused change. That's worse, isn't it? For my people, she said slowly, change during a private process is feared. We believe it damages the outcome. And does it? She watched the symbols evolve, responding to echoes of human thought that still lingered in the room. I do not know yet, she said. But I do know this outcome is alive in a way the others never were. Daniel shifted his weight. If it helps, humans mess things up all the time. Sometimes it works out. She gave a small, almost smile. That may be the most accurate description of your species I have heard. The lights dimmed further, settling into a steady glow. The room felt different now, less sealed, more open. You should not be here, she said. I know. But you are, she replied, and the process has accepted that. Daniel blinked. Accepted? Yes, it adjusted. He looked at the floating symbols again, feeling a strange sense of familiarity in their chaos. What happens now? He asked. She turned back to her work, hands rising again, more carefully this time. Now, she said, we see what humanity leaves behind when it only opens a door. And somewhere deep within the station systems, quiet logs recorded something unprecedented. The first confirmed case of a human altering an alien cognitive ritual without force, without intent, and without even realizing it. The galaxy would feel the echo of that moment later. But for now, it was just a closed room, a human who should not have been there, and an alien girl discovering that privacy, once broken, could become something entirely new. Hours passed, though time felt soft inside the sealed space. The station's lights outside followed their normal cycle, but inside the room, the glow stayed steady. The symbols still floated in the air, but they no longer followed the old patterns the alien girl had known all her life. They moved with pauses and sudden shifts, like thoughts changing direction mid-sentence. Daniel sat on the floor near the wall, trying very hard not to touch anything. He had offered to leave many times. Each time she had told him to wait. Her name, he had learned, was Lurie. She belonged to a species that valued inner order above all else. Their private processes were meant to be perfect, closed loops. No outside noise. No surprise. Humans, Daniel was beginning to understand, were almost entirely made of surprise. You can stand if you want, Lurie said without turning around. I'm okay here, Daniel replied. Less chance I mess something else up. She glanced at him. You already have. Fair. She returned her attention to the symbols. Thin lines of light extended from her fingers, interacting with them carefully. Each time she adjusted something, the structure reacted in a way that made her pause. This should not respond like this, she said quietly. Daniel hesitated, then spoke. Is that bad? I don't know, she admitted. It is unfamiliar. Outside the room, discussions were happening. Reports were written. Experts argued in calm, careful tones about what a human presence meant inside a protected cognitive space. Some wanted Daniel removed immediately. Others wanted the entire wing sealed, but none of them were inside the room. Lurie lowered her hands. Tell me something, she said. Okay. When you opened the door, she asked, what were you thinking? Daniel frowned. Honestly, I was thinking about how annoying the map was. And whether I was going to be late, and that I should hurry. She studied him. You did not feel hesitation? No, he said. I saw a door. I needed to go somewhere. I opened it. That is all. That's all. The symbols pulsed softly, as if reacting to his words. Lurie exhaled slowly. For my people, a door like that represents a final boundary. One does not cross it unless invited. Daniel nodded. For us, a closed door is sometimes just a mistake in labeling. She considered this. Your species' lives surrounded by uncertainty. Pretty much, and yet you continue forward. We don't really know how to stop, Daniel said. Something changed in the air. The symbols began to align into a new structure, one that looked unstable but strong, like a bridge made of light. Lurie stared at it, her eyes wide. This configuration, it should not exist. Is it dangerous? No, she said slowly. It is flexible. That word seemed important. Hours later, the door opened again, carefully this time. A group of senior observers stood outside, their presence respectful but tense. Lurie turned toward them. You may enter, she said. They stepped in one by one, stopping just inside the threshold. Their attention immediately locked onto the floating structure. This is not the original pattern, one observer said. No, Lurie replied. It is the result. They looked at Daniel. He remained, another said. Yes. Why? Lurie did not answer right away. She looked at Daniel, then back at the observers. Because removing him would have caused further disruption. The process adapted to his presence. Murmurs spread through the group. That should not be possible, someone said. It should not, Lurie agreed, and yet it is. One observer stepped closer, careful not to cross an invisible line. What does it do? Lurie raised her hands again, gently activating the structure. Light flowed through it, branching and reconnecting. Information moved not in straight lines, but in loops that corrected themselves. It learns, she said. The room went silent. Daniel blinked. It does what now? It adjusts based on incomplete input, Lurie explained. It does not require total isolation. It thrives with uncertainty. Several observers stiffened. That is inefficient, one said. It is resilient, Lurie replied. They stared at the structure like it was something dangerous and beautiful at the same time. You created this? One asked Daniel. He shook his head quickly. No, I didn't do anything. I just existed badly. Lurie looked at him again, that almost smile returning. That may be enough. The observers exchanged looks. This was not how progress usually happened for them. There were steps, permissions, models. This had none of those. Later, Daniel was escorted to temporary quarters nearby. He was not under arrest, but he was not free to leave either. The station wanted answers, and so did the Alliance beyond it. Lurie visited him before the cycle ended. They are afraid, she said. I figured. They believe your species may be incompatible with our methods. Daniel leaned back against the wall. We hear that a lot. She sat across from him. Yet they cannot deny the result. So what happens to me? You will be questioned, she said, extensively. Fun. And then, she added, they will decide whether humans are a risk or a resource. Daniel frowned. That sounds like a big decision. It is. The questioning took days. Daniel answered the same things over and over. He explained maps and habits and human impatience. He talked about mistakes that led to discoveries, about trying things without knowing the outcome. Some listeners were horrified, others were quietly fascinated. Lurie continued working with the altered structure. Each time she interacted with it, it responded faster, smarter. It predicted errors and adapted before they happened. This mirrors human problem-solving, one scientist noted. No, Lurie corrected gently. It mirrors human presence. Word spread. Other species requested demonstrations, carefully controlled ones. Humans were invited to stand near processes, not to touch, just to be there. In many cases, nothing happened. In some cases, everything changed. Systems became more adaptable. Models accounted for unknowns instead of failing when faced with them. The Alliance began to understand something unsettling. Humans were not powerful because of strength or technology. They were powerful because they normalized uncertainty. Lurie stood with Daniel one cycle later, looking through a wide observation window at a newly redesigned research hall. They have changed the architecture, Daniel said. Yes, she replied. Doors are now clearly marked. He laughed softly. That's probably for the best. And yet, she continued, they have also added open spaces, areas meant for unplanned interaction. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Really? They call them human zones, he groaned. We're never living that down, are we? No, she said, but we are learning from it. She turned to him. Do you regret opening the door? Daniel thought about it, about the fear, the trouble, the way one small mistake had rippled outward. No, he said finally. I regret not knocking, but not opening it. Lurie nodded. Then perhaps this was necessary. The Alliance issued a formal statement soon after. Humans were classified not as threats but as catalysts. Their presence required care, but also offered growth no model could predict. Daniel was allowed to leave the station. On his last day, he stood outside the sealed room one final time. The door was different now, transparent, clearly marked. Lurie stood inside, working with a system that moved like a living thing. "You'll open fewer doors now," she said. "Probably," Daniel replied. "But not none," she smiled openly this time. "That," she said, "is why the universe will change." As Daniel walked away, the station logs updated once more, recording a truth the galaxy would slowly come to accept. Humanity did not conquer by force. It arrived, stepped where it should not, and taught the universe how to adapt. It changed slowly the way habits change. Quietly. One adjustment at a time. After Daniel left the station, reports about humans continued to spread through the Alliance. Not dramatic reports. Not warnings of danger. They were careful, thoughtful documents that used words like unpredictable, adaptive, and context-altering. Many species did not like those words. Some were curious. Some were uncomfortable. Lurie remained at the station. Her work had become central to something much larger than herself. The altered structure she had created with accidental human influence was now being studied across multiple worlds. Copies were attempted, but none behaved the same way without a human nearby. That fact caused endless debate. Lurie stood in a large chamber, watching a group of observers argue softly behind a transparent barrier. In the center of the room floated a new construct, inspired by her original work but larger and more complex. It waited. Not passively but attentively. "It will not activate," one observer said. "It has all required parameters," another replied. Lurie knew the reason, but she did not interrupt. The door opened behind her. A human stepped inside, not Daniel. This one was shorter, older, with gray hair and tired eyes. His name was Marcus Hale, an engineer sent as part of the Alliance's first official human research delegation. The construct reacted instantly. Light rippled through it. Paths formed and reformed, testing possibilities. The observers fell silent. Marcus stopped walking. He said. "Did I do something wrong?" Lurie turned, her expression calm but focused. "No," she said. "You did something human," Marcus blinked. "I don't know if that's good or bad anymore." "Neither," she replied. "It is simply effective." This became the pattern. Where humans went, systems behaved differently, not better in every case, sometimes worse, sometimes chaotic, but they recovered, they learned, they adapted instead of collapsing. For species who valued control above all else, this was deeply unsettling. For others, it was hope. Lurie was invited to speak before the Central Council. The chamber was enormous, filled with representatives of dozens of species. She stood alone in the center, small compared to the space, but steady. "You believe humans are careless," she said. Several representatives shifted, but none denied it. "They open doors without thinking," she continued. "They ask questions at the wrong time. They act without full understanding." A few heads nodded. "And yet," Lurie said, her voice even, "they survive environments that would overwhelm us, not because they control every variable, but because they accept they cannot." A representative spoke. "Acceptance of uncertainty is not strength, it is surrender." Lurie looked directly at them. "No, it is preparation." She projected an image into the air, a model of a system without human influence. Perfect, efficient, fragile, then another, a human influence system, messy. Flexible, enduring. "When something unexpected happens," she said, "one collapses, the other adjusts." Silence followed. Far away, Daniel had returned to Earth. Life there felt strange after the station. Doors were everywhere, loud, obvious, ignored. He noticed things he had never thought about before. Signs, privacy. The way humans moved through shared spaces without asking. He did not tell many people what had happened, only what he had to. But sometimes, late at night, he wondered what small habits of his had already shaped other worlds. The Alliance made a decision soon after. Humans would not be isolated. They would not be allowed everywhere either. Instead, they would be placed where uncertainty was highest. Border research, early exploration, systems that had failed too many times because they were too perfect. The term human buffer entered official language. Not everyone agreed. On one distant station, a non-human administrator tried to enforce old rules. Humans were restricted. Observed closely, kept away from sensitive processes. Within weeks, progress slowed. Systems failed quietly. Models broke when reality refused to follow them. The administrator requested assistance. A human team was sent. They did not fix the system directly. They asked questions, tried small changes, suggested strange ideas, left coffee cups near consoles, talked while working. The system stabilized. The administrator never admitted why. Lurie watched all of this from afar. She continued her work, but it was no longer private. Her people had accepted that privacy, once absolute, could be redefined. One cycle, she received a message. From Daniel, it was short. Hope I didn't ruin the universe. She considered it for a long moment before replying. You did not ruin it, she sent back. You taught it how to recover. On another world, a door opened. Not by accident this time. A human paused, noticed the marking, and knocked. Nothing happened. After a moment, they knocked again. Inside, a non-human researcher hesitated. This door had never been knocked on before. There was no protocol for this. Curiosity won. Enter, they said. The universe shifted just a little, not because of force, not because of plans, but because someone opened a door, someone else allowed it, and both accepted that the outcome could not be fully controlled. And that, more than any weapon or technology, became humanity's true mark on the stars. They moved like quiet ripples, touching places no one expected. Not every place welcomed them. On a distant station built far from trade routes, an old species watched humans with deep suspicion. They had existed for a very long time. Their systems were stable. Their rules were perfect. Nothing surprised them anymore, and that was how they wanted it, until humans arrived. The station administrator, a being named Vector, observed from an elevated chamber as a small group of humans walked through the central hall. They spoke softly, pointed at things, and smiled too often. They were not touching anything important. Still, Vector felt uneasy. They move without respect for pattern, Vector said. An aide replied, they have not broken any rule. Not yet, Vector answered. The humans were there to help with a failing prediction system. The system had worked for centuries, but recently it had begun producing errors. Small ones at first, then larger ones. No one understood why. The humans were brought in as a last option. Inside the control chamber, one human leaned over a display and frowned. Her name was Sarah Kim. She was quiet, focused, and very human in the way she leaned too close to the screen. This thing assumes everything stays normal, she said. That is correct, one of the station's scientists replied. Normal is expected. Sarah nodded slowly. That's the problem. The scientists did not understand, but before they could respond, the system shifted. New data flowed in, unexpected data. The system did not fail, it bent. Vector watched the readouts change and felt something unfamiliar tighten inside their core. The system was no longer clean. It was not perfect. It was working. Reports like this multiplied. Some stations resisted human involvement, others embraced it. Arguments filled council chambers. Entire philosophies were questioned. And through it all, one truth became harder to ignore. The universe was not stable. It never had been. Humans just refused to pretend otherwise. Lurie visited Earth months later. It was her first time on a human world. She found it loud, crowded, and full of motion that never fully stopped. People crossed paths constantly. Doors opened and closed without ceremony. Privacy existed, but it was flexible. She walked through a city with Daniel beside her. You live like this all the time? She asked. Daniel smiled. You get used to it. She stopped at a crosswalk, watching people wait, move, adjust. No one followed a perfect pattern, yet everything worked. This would terrify my people, she said. Yeah, Daniel replied. It terrifies us too, we just don't admit it. They sat in a small cafe. Lurie watched as strangers spoke freely, shared space, disagreed without breaking apart. You allow disruption, she said. Daniel shrugged. We argue, we mess up, we fix it, that's kind of our thing. Far above the planet, Alliance observers watched carefully. Earth was now considered a key example of adaptive systems in action. Not perfect. Surviving. Back on the old station, Vector faced a decision. The failing system had been repaired with human help. The results were undeniable. Still, Vector hesitated. Invite a human representative, they finally ordered. When the human arrived, Vector did not speak right away. They studied the human closely. You disrupt structure, Vector said. Yes, the human replied calmly. You introduce uncertainty. Yes, Vector leaned forward. Why should we allow that? The human thought for a moment. Because certainty breaks when reality changes. We expect change. Silence followed. Vector realized something then. Their species had survived by avoiding surprise. Humans survived by facing it. The door between them did not close. Years passed. The alliance evolved. Human presence became normal, not everywhere, not always welcome, but accepted. Systems were redesigned. Education changed. Even language shifted to include concepts humans took for granted. Flexibility, margin, recovery. Lurie returned to her original work one final time. The first altered structure still existed, preserved carefully. It moved slowly now, calm but aware. She placed her hand near it and felt something familiar. Connection. Daniel visited once more before leaving the Alliance entirely. He had chosen a quieter life back on Earth. "Do you ever wish it had not happened?" he asked her. "The door," she replied. "Yes." She considered the question carefully. "No," she said. "It forced us to grow." Daniel nodded. "That sounds like humanity." They stood in silence for a while. Elsewhere, a young alien researcher hesitated before a marked door. Inside was a private process, important, sensitive. They thought about rules. Then they thought about humans. They knocked. The universe did not break. It never had. It simply learned to bend, to recover, to move forward without fear of the unknown. And humanity, without trying to rule the stars, became something far stranger and far more powerful. It became proof that imperfection, when accepted, could carry an entire universe safely into the future.